Shalom from Jerusalem. This is TV7's Editor's Note. I'm Jonathan Hassan, and joining me today for a lively discussion on a whole variety of issues is no other than Brigadier General in Reserve, Doron Gavish, commander of the Israeli Air Force Task Force for Air and Missile Defense, as well as a permanent panelist here at TV7 Israel, and I'm deeply appreciative.
Thank you. Great to be here with you.
Absolutely.
This time here and not on the Zoom.
Yes, indeed. Well, also at a time when there are quite a lot of tensions when we're talking about the current situation vis-a-vis Yemen, Iran, a lot of various threats emanating from different countries, but of course, in your capacity as the commander of the Air and Missile Defense Task Force, of course, under the leadership of Central Command, the United States, times are crucial and your time is valuable. So we'll say again, we're very deeply appreciative for all that you do. Before we start, and we'll discuss Yemen, Iran, USCENTCOM, Israel, Europe, maybe Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, and not to forget the Gaza Strip, of course. I think it's important to highlight that TV7 Israel is a donation-based ministry organization, and all that we do here is based on the support of our viewers at home. And despite the costs accumulating because of the situation, we did not think that we would be 534 days now in this situation since October 7th of 2023. We still, by a lot of faith and unyielding determination, continue to produce daily productions of updates with regard to regional issues, what impacts Israel on a direct to its security, but also indirectly matters that emanate from China, from Russia, from other places around the globe. So from your perspective, what's the importance of what we do, and why should people watching us go into their pockets, so to speak, and support what we do? Because naturally, the cost of living is rising, and the challenges are to all of us, not just here at TV7 Israel.
Well, Jonathan, let me give you an example. And I've talked about it 2 or 3 weeks ago, but it was very shortly. So now we could speak a little bit more in length. And I visited Sweden. And I've talked with the Jewish community, with the Christian community over there, with people, basically supporters of Israel. And it was quite amazing to see that every place that I've been to Stockholm, I've been to Malmo, people approached me and they say, "You are Doron from TV7, and please say hello to Jonathan." And it was, you could see it, that everyone is saying that, you know what, we love to see TV7 because there is deep diving into the issues, because you hear the truth without all kind of speculations and so on. People that are talking, you really see the truth. You're being able to see different perspectives of the same issues. And I think that this is really what TV7, and I must say you, Jonathan, are bringing really to our viewers, and also it is always interesting and for me to see the viewers that they are responsive. They are very dynamic. They say what they think about what they've seen here in your shows. I think this is also something important. So I would say also the relations between the studio and its viewers, this is also something which I think it is quite unique for TV7.
I appreciate that. Absolutely. It's quite interesting to see that we have viewers all over the world, going from the Pacific, where we see in Australia and in New Zealand, as well as Fiji and other small islands in the area, Indonesia. People are watching from there. Of course, we also broadcast there on TBN Pacific, among others. And all the way to Europe, where we have a lot of viewers, also, as you mentioned, in Sweden, as well as in Finland, Estonia, Norway, France, a lot of viewers from France, absolutely. At some point, the number one viewership was from Paris,
Really?
which from the cities across the globe. I haven't seen the statistics in the last couple of weeks, but at some point they reached number one. But then again, we are integrating. We're in a process of integrating and putting a lot of focus on that. From NRB TV to a lot of local channels across the globe, KI TV, which also has a reach of 230 million households. And from April 1st, we will also start broadcast on TCT in the United States, which has a reach of roughly 92 million households. And beyond that, we have also a discussion now with Middle East television, METV, which broadcasts all over the Middle East, of course, and it's also you're able to tune here from Israel into Middle East television. In Israel, most people know it for the football games, American football. They used to broadcast there, and if somebody wanted to watch American football, that was the only way to see it.
Yeah.
But now also we're going to broadcast there, which is quite interesting because when they launched initially their news in the Arabic language back in the early 80s, the leadership of METV at the time, that was under CBN, asked my father to come and teach them how to prepare the news. So there is some sort of
there is a legacy
in this context. But praise God, there are a lot of new avenues, and we provide all of our content for free. So our focus is to reach as many as possible people. If there are third-party costs, of course, in TV7 Israel News and the various elements that we need to procure copyrights for the visuals and this and that. So that's something they cover. But other than that, we're still in the good graces of God and our viewers. So that's how we operate, with the belief that we need to share the truth about the situation. And unfortunately, from all the different channels that I've seen over the years, I've not met many people who are not narrative driven. And therefore, being so focused on trying to distance ourselves from the narratives and allowing to have all the various angles, I think that is quite unique. And also the fact that all the people who are part of this, including yourself, are directly involved with decision making, with policy making, with the current security as well as diplomatic aspects of the state of Israel, the United States, in Europe also. How can we translate that to our viewers to the degree and level in which our programs are in comparison to others?
Well, I think that, and you mentioned it, I could focus for a second about Israel and the interests of Israel and how do we bring it to our viewers. Of course, we talk much larger than this, but when it comes to Israel, there's quite a lot of people here that are, ex-military, that you bring and talk with them. And, as a military personnel, you are kind of being trained all your military life to think about your country, to think what is really valuable to your country, what is important, what are the interests of your country. You don't look at it from a political point of view, left, right, and so on. You really think about your country. And I think that there's quite a lot of people here, basically all of them. I was for a second focusing on the military ones, ex-military, we should say we are all ex, although we are doing some reserves and so on. which, this is really our muscle. What could we do for Israel? What are the interests of Israel? And I think this is also something which is very important, and to who are the people that are here discussing about the issues that you are bringing, Jonathan. So I think this is very important. And also we should say that I think that the other part of it is people that are very aware of what is happening around us. It is not only that we are focusing in Israel.
Everybody provides still advice
exactly
on a regular basis.
Exactly. So I think this is also, so it's Israeli interest, but it is all a wider picture of what is happening. So I really think this is something unique and important in TV7.
Let's touch on something that you're dealing with. We had this week multiple ballistic missiles being launched from Yemen by the Iranian proxy Ansar Allah, dominated, of course, by the Houthi tribe, towards Israeli territory. Most of those were intercepted by the task force that you're heading from the Israeli side of the equation. And thankfully, no material damage or injuries were reported, particularly since all of those projectiles were destroyed outside of Israeli territory, including the various debris that then were flown and scattered all over the place. What are we to take of the current state of play, and do you see this going to intensify?
Well, I think this is really important, Jonathan, to focus for a second on Yemen and what is happening there. But just allow me to say that the one who is in charge on the defense of Israel is the commander of the Israeli Air and Missile Defense. He's a career officer now in his service, so he is the one who really deserves the credit. Of course, we are all helping him. But I think, looking at Yemen, first of all, I believe we should say a word about the United States and the strategy that have been changed in the last few weeks. We all remember, and we discussed it so many times, that the strategy was leaning more toward the defense. We see a change today. We see that there is an offensive operation led by CENTCOM in Yemen, and this is something that we didn't see in the past. And this is really a strategic change. And now when the US is operating in Yemen, we could look at it from different angles. One of it, of course, is the fight against the Houthis. But it is not only this. It is also the singing, or sending a signal to Saudi, to Egypt, to Jordan, to other countries here in the Mediterranean, that we are here, and we are willing to be very proactive in what we are doing. And I think this is a very important signal that we're lacking in a way during the years, and I think this is it. Another angle is, of course, toward our enemies and toward our opponents, those in the region, and saying, hey guys, we're not only on the defensive, there are all other options that we could use. This is also important. And of course, Russia, China, if we're going to the global scale. So it is what we are seeing today, CENTCOM, United States, with the Houthis, but it is much more than this. From the Israeli, of course, angle, we all the time said, and we believed in it, that the story of the Houthis, it is not only the story of Israel, because the Houthis are blocking the naval pathways. We have to remember that the ones that are being influenced by it more than anyone else is Egypt, because 10% of the naval shipment in the world was going through the Suez Canal. Today it's much less. It's completely different situation. And Jordan, you're right. In some extent also Saudi. So there is an economical issue, and the ones that are being influenced more than anyone else are the Egyptians. So what we've said continuously, and of course Europe, that now everything have to go around in order to gather. So what we were saying all the time, that this is not only an issue of Israel. This is an issue of a coalition led by the United States, and this is basically what we are seeing today. Going back to the Israel point of view, of course, the Yemenis, the Houthis, from one hand, they are trying without a big success, I would say. From a operational point of view, they shot toward Israel tens of ballistic missiles. The vast majority of them were intercepted. We can recall two leakers, and that was it. I mean, the other more than 90% of interception rate, 100% of alerts. Whatever is coming toward Israel, we can alert in 100% of the cases the population in Israel that something is going toward them. And also UAVs. There were around 400 UAVs that were shot toward Israel. We can record 5 of them that hit some places without a big damage, I would say. We had one, unfortunately, one of our civilians that was killed, but basically that was it during all the war. So from a military point, there is not a success, but it is a terror organization. And still we see Israelis that are going to the shelter at 4 o'clock in the morning, which is not a big fun. And they are, it's disturbing the life of the Israelis. So the Houthis, for sure, this is something that needs to be taken care of, led by United States and the coalition. And from the Israeli point of view, we already struck more than once in Yemen, and this is, of course, something that we would take into consideration also for the future.
Many people asked me, both viewers as well as outside of the viewership circle, whether or not the United States could take care of the Houthi issue with kinetic strikes alone. Some experts claim it's possible, others no. Some established analogies with the Afghan situation, which is not applicable here for various reasons. Others provided some analogies from the Libyan perspective, which is also not applicable here because of the terrain differences. But I think it's, for a moment, important to explain that the Houthis are a small Shiite tribe. They're not Sunnah. The majority of the tribes, the vast majority, I'm talking about more than 95% of the tribes in Yemen, happen to be Sunni. And during the course of the period where, at the time, the international recognized government of former President Abdel Ghabo Mansour Hadi fought the Houthis for quite some time, and the Saudi-led coalition, in cooperation with the Emiratis, with the Bahrainis, with the Kuwaitis, as well as with the United States of America that backed this during the first Trump administration, were very successful in pushing back on the Houthis. Now, the aspect here that needs to be understood is that the Houthis managed to convince many Sunni tribes that they would provide them with prosperity, with protection, with Iranian assurances for long-term strategy that would bring them to the top. They managed to convince them and also procured basically their loyalties with various promises and protection money, so to speak. This ultimately brought about the Houthi rise to power. But when we really look at the various elements within this, if the United States focuses, on the one hand, on striking the Houthis, specifically the Houthi tribe, and degrading various civic capacities of the various tribes that pledged loyalty to Abdel Malik al-Houthi, the other element that needs to be pushed forward here is providing alternative tribes that project power within the composition of Yemen, and then allow them to somehow draw in the various tribes from Houthi loyalties to redirect their loyalties elsewhere. And that is possible. That is possible.
I agree, and also I believe that they are looking what happened with the Hezbollah, what happened in Syria.
There's a lot of disinformation there, so
Yeah, you're right, but I believe that something gets there, and hopefully they would see what happened with the peers in the Gaza Strip. So I think that this is also something that could be as an influencer of what would be their decision, but it is very challenging. It's very challenging for sure, and we have to be patient with those terrorists.
right. Well, there are 3 naval operations right now taking place. Have Prosperity Guardian as part of Task Force 153, which is, of course, initially established by Egypt and the United States to confront those type of challenges. I do suspect that the United States told the Egyptians, don't get involved, because they need stability in Egypt. If Egypt collapses, it's not in a good situation right now. This would have ramifications for the entire region in Africa, in the Middle East, including in Israel, as well as for Europe. We're talking here about a population of roughly 103 to 105 million people that are on the brink of, economic collapse. So the implications on the global situation may be very vast, and that is something that we would like to avoid at all cost.
Mhm.
On a second aspect, we do have another, if we're going back to the naval operations, the US-led campaign right now against the Houthis. Naturally, it is done from the headquarters of Nafsent in Bahrain. They have the assistance of Britain, of the Netherlands, of Canada. Despite the disagreements between Canada and the United States, there's still a lot of cooperation between the two countries, of Australia, of New Zealand. So there are other countries also taking part in the offensive capacity to confront the Houthis, albeit only staff officers, and staff officers don't always provide as much input as you'd want them to provide. But nonetheless, it does show that the United States is leading in this effort, and of course, it is the strong arm, basically, of Western civilization confronting the various threats. But nonetheless, one of the components that needs to be taken out, and President Trump alluded to that earlier this week, was the whole challenge of Iranian efforts to supply the Houthis with munitions, with intelligence assistance, with other aspects. Do you see this somehow intensifying?
Well, it is part of the fight. At the end of the day, we see it as an Israelis. We see it in Lebanon. When we fought the Hezbollah, we don't want them to be rearmed. We want to block the chain of supply from Iran. So I think from this aspect, it is basically the same. You want to contain the Houthis from one hand. You want to block all the chain of weaponry that is going in. And we have to say that, the Houthis have ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, UAVs. They have some impressive capabilities that I'm not sure that how many of us in the West understand how big this terror organization. It is not a small terror organization with Kalashnikovs. They do have some capabilities which more of the European nations don't have. So it is a real fight when you're fighting against the Houthis. So you need to take care of everything. You need to block the ammunition, the rearming. You have to continuously hit them, and I believe that this is what is happening. And again, we have to say that it is change of the strategy, and this is the most important thing, because when there is a decision that we are shifting the strategy, we are not only on the defense, we are also on the offense. At the end of the day, United States is the real superpower of the world, and if they decide that they would do something, it would happen. It might take time, but at the end of the day, it would happen. And I hope for the Houthis, although I'm not hoping for them so much, that they will understand it sooner than later. Because the prior projection of the United States, it is really a matter of decision.
Absolutely.
And maybe last word, or before last word, is to say that CENTCOM is an amazing organization. The United States is being divided to 7 different components. I would say military components, and the CENTCOM is the one who is continuously in a fight.
The American people can be proud of their men and women.
The men and people
really
should be, and I think we should be all inspired by them and by their leader, General Kurilla, who is leading CENTCOM. He is an inspiring general,
and his deputy Bradford Cooper is also inspiring.
And is you're right, and all their stuff. But at the end of the day, you look at the leader. And I think that everyone could be inspired by General Kurilla and the way that he is leading CENTCOM. So we hope for them the best and whatever they would decide to do. And we thank them for the cooperation with Israel, which go for a long time, but we see it much more intense during the last war.
I think the Houthis need to understand also what happened in Syria. Because the Iranians blame Israel, the United States, and Turkey for the fall of the Assad regime. But what actually happened was that Israel told Iran, if you send troops to Syria, 4,000 or 5,000 militants, we would shoot you out of the sky. The Americans warned the Iraqis, don't allow Hashd al-Shabi to cross into Syria because you will deal with us. And then the Turkish-backed HTS and the other jihadist organizations, they just traveled south. They barely fought, just to put things in perspective.
Right.
So
they just went in.
Yeah, and therefore there's a lot more credit to the Israelis and Americans for this than to the Turks. But nonetheless, this is a very fluid situation. We've come, unfortunately, to the end of our program today. You will be back for many more programs, God willing.
I'll be back, and the time is flying. It is always interesting talking with you, Jonathan, and I'm looking forward for the next ones.
General Doron Gavish, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank all of you at home as well, and wish you a Shavua Tov, and until our next edition from here in Jerusalem. Shalom.
Jerusalem Studio, now available on Spotify.